All right, so as I mentioned last week, today's content is on our hero heritage ingredients, which are the giant Byongpool and the Jeju lava energy water. Each have withstood the test of time in regards to their majesty, in regards to their applications, and ultimately in their performance in our products. Now, we'll begin with that hero ingredient, giant Byongpool. The history of Byongpool in general has a variety of different applications and explanations. And with that comes so many different names. It's known as Asiatic pennywort, tiger grass, gotu kola. I would say it's most commonly known as Centella asiatica, and that is what you will see listed in your ingredient list on the back of your products. Now, giant Byongpool or Byongpool in general is native to Asia, and it also is grown in Southeast Asia, India, even sub-Saharan Africa. It's also, of course, native to Jeju Island. Now, the name tiger grass specifically comes from the historical appreciation in which tigers, after they had battled, would instinctively roll in these herbs to heal their wounds. And so that also began the concept of this as a wound healing herb, as its ability to regenerate the skin, but it's also associated with longevity in Sri Lanka, and even Ayurvedic medicine revered it as a mind clearing herb or active. So, really, with the history of giant Byongpool, while yes, it has the scientific evidence to back its performance, it also has this beautiful history behind it that allows you to really connect with this ingredient almost romantically. Now, with the appreciation of Byungpool, we wanted to make sure that we were very concise and careful in our attainment of this raw material. As such, and as you may know, we grow it ourselves, and we grow it at our Ask Base Smart Farm on Jeju Island. Now, specifically, the Smart Farm is located in the Water Research Center, which we also get our Jeju Lava Energy water from, and it's controlled and monitored by Remon for consistent plant growth. Now, we initially set a variety of different characteristics of these growths, but ultimately we then leave the leaves alone to grow themselves. We set specific temperatures, humidity, the salinity of the soil. We also make sure that the leaves are harvested at a peak moment of growth, and ultimately that is controlling the harvest time. Now, what's unique about these plant beds you see here is that the growth of the Byungpool or of the giant Byungpool is entirely via osmosis. The seeds or seedlings are initially planted through or in sand, excuse me, there's sand in these beds, and the Jeju lava energy water is at the bottom of these beds. The leaves water themselves via that osmosis. They essentially just take what they need in terms of water, and that allows them to be otherwise self-sustainable in their growth. Now, our smart farm has 62 individual beds for plant growth, and the entirety, with the inclusion of the neighboring research center, is 150,000 square feet. It is gigantic. Now, previously, when visitors would come to Ask Base, you could walk between the beds. You could actually touch the leaves, but now there is a glass panel that protects these leaves in their growth, but you can still easily see all the beds and the expanse of greenery that is in the smart farm. Now, this individual you see here, this is Dr. Saw. He is the head of the Byungpool Institute. If you'll remember from last week when we talked about Ask Base and Ask Labs has that branch of research known as our Byungpool Research Institute. So he helps really maintain the consistent growth of these leaves, but also helps maintain the forward movement in the research on the giant Byungpool. In our creation and utilization of the Smart Farm, we are the first company worldwide that is vertically integrated in the controlled growth of giant Byungpool. And that is fantastic. Not only is it in the controlled growth of giant Byungpool, which of course is our unique ingredient, but it's the first company worldwide in the controlled growth of Centella asiatica in general. So that really gives us a level of expertise behind this product. Now, in the creation of our smart farm as well, Chairman On himself went to a partner or went to a company in the Netherlands called Priva, and they were seen as the experts behind smart farms and behind controlled growths. And so what he learned at Priva was ultimately applied to the creation of our smart farm. So you can be assured that while these leaves are not only being optimally grown, the smart farm itself has been optimally constructed to perform and to create these leaves for us to use. So all of that coming together, we of course have to honor the fact that we hold a patent on the growth of this giant Byongpool. As you see here, this is a copy of the certification of the grant of plant variety rights that was received in Korea. And as you can see, the holding company is Ask Company. Now, Ask Company, as we talked about last week, is the parent to Ask Base and to Ask Labs and is within the Remon umbrella. We thusly hold exclusive rights to the growth and utilization of giant Byongpool, and this patent gives us protection for 20 years, established in 2022. Now, in Korea, the outdoor cultivation of Byongpool, while it is naturally growing in Jeju, it was a little bit difficult to have a controlled growth for application and formulation. And of course, with the intention of including these ingredients in formula, you need consistent growth, you need consistent amount of growth as well. And so we decided to bring our growth of giant Byongpool indoors. Now, as we did so, we found that there was a synergistic growth benefit between the standard Byongpool and the Jeju lava energy water. The use of the Jeju lava energy water created leaves that were 3 to 4 times, even 5 to 6 times larger than that standard Byongpool. So once we discovered this, we wanted to register it. We wanted to make it our own. But to register a new variety, it had to pass a 3-year cultivation test for trait stability. And thusly, we were confirming that they were consistently growing larger. This was then certified by a national oh my gosh, it's always so hard for me to say, accreditation agency. And that is where we got our ultimate cultivation protection. Furthermore, as you may also know, we announced this at our Remon convention, or excuse me, Remon roadmap in Las Vegas. The giant Byongpool is now also registered with the USDA PVP. Now, PVP stands for Plant Variety Protection, and it too has its rigorous processes and similar level of protection in the exclusivity and use of a specific raw material. And of course, this is for plants specifically. So after a rigorous evaluation for distinctiveness, uniformity, and again for stability, the U.S. Department of Agriculture recognized this as a unique plant variety for another 20 years. So of course that happened in 2025. So that extends our patent another 3 years in the concept of the US specifically. And with the utilization of the USDA PVP, because it is such an internationally recognized credit or certification, so to speak, it makes it easier for the patent to begin to be registered in other countries beyond just the US as well. So this is huge for us, having the USDA PVP approval alongside the patent from Korea as well. And with that, you can assure the difference behind Remon's products simply in the uniqueness of our utilization of this strain. Now, that's all cool, but what is this Byongpool doing for our skin? Now, Byongpool is fantastic for even sensitive skin types, and I always like to appreciate sensitive skin as that baseline most vulnerable skin type, such that it can offer benefits to more robust skin types, such as oily, combination, or normal skin. Not only does it provide calming and soothing benefits, but it can hydrate the skin and even improve the skin barrier. But as I have mentioned, that is true of any Centella asiatica, any Byongpool. So our utilization of that giant Byongpool with the larger leaves allows us to have more phytonutrients per leaf. Now, because we are growing these leaves ourselves, we're able also to only ever use them in their fresh form. They are never dried. Many companies that use the standard Byongpool or standard Centella asiatica will dry this raw material to lower the cost of shipping. But in doing so, you remove a variety of water-soluble components that are beneficial to the human body or upon consumption. We're able to keep every phytonutrient intact, which is already in a higher concentration, and bring that directly to our extraction process. Now, because of the greater area of leaf size, there's specifically a higher polyphenol content. This allows for directly a greater antioxidant activity. But because we are so passionate about this leaf and because we are the sole users of it, we wanted to see what else it could do for the skin. And we found that it had a significant anti-wrinkle effect as well as the ability to reduce hyperpigmentation. And this is by no means the limit of the benefits to our giant Byongpool. Because we have that branch of research at AS Labs, we are continuing the study into other applications and even novel derivatives we can pull from the giant Byongpool. But what's fantastic is this image you see here, that standard Byongpool is so small in comparison to the giant Byongpool. And it should go without saying, but that giant Byongpool is completely non-GMO. It is just growing larger because of the synergy with the Jeju lava energy water. Now, all the benefits that come from the giant Byongpool, of course, in part come from those polyphenols, but there are a variety of different fantastic molecules and phytonutrients that allow for the Byongpool to have so many different benefits for our skin. Now, what I have identified here are the main constituents, the things that are really promising for application in skincare. It's the triterpenes and their glycosides. So the triterpenes are asiatic acid, madecassic acid, and any glycoside is what ends in oside. So the madecassoside, the asiaticoside. But amongst all these, there's also vitamin C, vitamin A, and a variety of minerals in these plants as well. Now, what's crucial about the utilization of whole plant extract is that you get all of these triterpenes and their glycosides in formulation. Many companies may use, madecassic acid and create a madecassic acid serum, or they might isolate the asiaticoside. But the utilization of all of these in conjunction in formula allows again for a synergistic benefit for your skin. Now, asiatic acid, for example, of course, has antioxidant properties, but it's also been found in vitro to stimulate your fibroblast cells. These are your cell types that create collagen and elastin, and thusly it may stimulate the production of collagen. Madecassic acid is well known for its soothing properties and its anti-inflammatory actions, while asiatic acid is well known as an antioxidant to strengthen the skin. Madecassoside, furthermore, has those soothing properties alongside reducing free radicals. So as you can see, many of these overlap in being antioxidants themselves, and some also overlap in their soothing properties. But it was found in specific in vivo studies that when used in a mix with asiatic acid, asiaticoside, and madecassoside, madecassic acid specifically can help promote the creation of natural moisturizing factors like hyaluronic acid, for example. So as you can see, that synergy with all of these things in present, not only are you having a higher concentration of antioxidants, the presence of other triterpenes or glycosides in formula allows for specific molecules to perform even better, to create hydration, to create those soothing effects. And so really there is so much going on in such a simple leaf that provides so much for application to our skin, our hair, and our body. Now, in our utilization of the giant Byongpool, you may know that we use it in multiple different ways within our formulas currently. Most notably is our giant Byongpool 3 solution. Now, this is applied to the booster, the serum, and the dermatology cream. And this solution not only has that giant Byongpool extract, but it also takes amino acids from the Byongpool and even exosomes from these plants. So with the giant Byongpool leaf extract, we have found an increase in antioxidant efficacy by 34.5%. And that was specific to the reintroduction of our products earlier this year in March. And as such, there is twice the reduction in MMP1 activity. Now, MMP1 or matrix metalloproteinase is an enzyme that naturally occurs in our body to break down collagen and elastin for restructuring. However, it can often be upticked in its activity or overexpressed in its activity such that it breaks down collagen and elastin that your body actually needed, and that ultimately leads to fine lines and wrinkles. Traditionally, the increase in activity of MMP1s is due to the presence of of oxidants or oxidative species, traditionally after UV overexposure. And we'll talk a little bit more about this next week in our skin physiology discussion, but it's essentially all connected. The utilization of these antioxidants have robust effects in a variety of aesthetic desires we have for our skincare. That next ingredient, the giant Byongpool exosome, is fantastic for the formulation as well. This is a natural plant material and it really enhances the efficacy of these products. Now, it's different than the liposomes that are in the Radiance 100 line. Liposomes, traditionally, while they can be naturally occurring, are otherwise synthesized. And in that synthesis, you can control what goes into those liposomes. Our use of these exosomes is subject to nature's creation in that they have fantastic benefits in depositing to the skin what is already contained within. So the phytonutrients that were already existing within those exosomes. Last but certainly not least, those amino acids are essentially protein building blocks, but they also act as antioxidants, as hydrators, and as signaling molecules to maintain your general skin health. And that all comes from the giant Byongpool and is part of our extraction process for inclusion into the key products of the dermatology line. Now, of course, with the presence of this giant Byongpool comes the necessity for so much research to understand its importance and its higher benefit over that standard Byongpool. So as you see depicted here, we have the paper on the comparison of growth characteristics and physiological activity of the two different Centella asiatica cultivars, so standard versus our giant Byongpool. And this was written in collaboration with Ask Labs or with Ask Base. And not only does it note the difference in physiology of these leaves, how they look, but also in phytonutrient composition. And then, as I mentioned a few slides previously, we also did various various studies with universities in Seoul to see what else Byongpool could do for our skin. And here's where we're listing that anti-wrinkle effect and specifically the reduction of MMP1 activity. Below, we see the brightening activity of the giant Byongpool, and here we see the anti-inflammatory properties of that giant Byongpool. But we also look at things such as creating novel derivatives, which I've also mentioned. So here you see specifically the identification of a lactobacillus strain, a type of probiotic, which has applications, of course, for the skin's microbiome, but also for oral application as well. Now, within the studyings of the Byongpool, we also found that it has 60% more collagen synthesis than standard Byongpool alone. And within its higher presence of polyphenols and its greater antioxidant activity, we found that it specifically has 143% more free radical scavenging than traditional Byongpool. So that free radical scavenging is essentially the neutralization of reactive oxygen species. So again, that robustness in antioxidant care. So Byongpool is one of those things that really sets us apart in our utilization of natural ingredients because many individuals can use, or individual brands rather, can use certain natural extracts, natural oils, but this is just for Remon. And ultimately, it's just for you to enjoy in formulation. And then next we have that Jeju Lava Energy Water, which itself has a fantastic story. So in understanding the importance of water in formulation, it is known as a universal solvent. And as some of you may know, or I might have already mentioned it because I love to talk about myself, but specifically cosmetic chemistry in my application and when I was a cosmetic chemist really uses water as the start of any formulation. Unless it's an anhydrous formula, one that has no water, like a balm or a lipstick, even sometimes do not have water. Your formulas can be upwards of 80, even 90% water. Now, typically that's on the end of your body care, your hair care, things that can have larger fills, but still want to be relatively cost effective. So many different body washes you'll find in the market or at drugstores are going to be super high in water content because that allows for you to fill up a large bottle without costing too much. Absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Based on the specific surfactants and moisturizers in formula, it still could be a fantastic formula. But that water offers no benefit to your skin, and we understand that. So even at the baseline of a formula with the starting solvent, we wanted to see how we could introduce the Riemann difference, and that's within the utilization of the Jeju lava energy water. Now, on Jeju Island, roughly 400,000 years ago, a volcano began to form called Halasan. And beneath this volcano, and really beneath the entirety of the island itself, is volcanic bedrock. The surrounding seawater filters through this bedrock and is freed of any heavy metals or impurities, and instead picks up essential minerals from this rock, such that this aqueous resource has benefits for our skin. Now, this volcanic water is not the only incidence worldwide. There's also a site in Hawaii, Spain, and Japan, but many of those sites are either not impure, there's too much sand, or they're too deep, where it's not cost effective nor smart to try and achieve or obtain this volcanic water. But Jeju is the perfect resource. It's shallow enough that we can easily obtain it and pure enough that we can use it for human application. Now, as I had mentioned, really what's key with the Jeju lava energy water is the presence, well, not only the purity and the purification through those rocks, but also the presence of essential minerals. You can see in this chart here the variety of minerals that are present within each each sample of the Jeju lava energy water. We, of course, have sodium in very high concentrations. That is filtered out. We do not keep the salt in formula. But we also have silicon, we have selenium, as well as zinc, all of these having purported benefits for the skin. And what's crucial about our utilization of the Jeju lava energy water as that prime area of volcanic water is that it has very minimal fluctuations year round in its salt, in its temperature, or in its pH. So as you can see in this chart below, we are comparing the surface water, the bottom water, and the Jeju lava seawater, which is pink, and in temperature and in salt. And lastly, in pH, it stays relatively the same throughout the year. And that's crucial in creating consistent products. Of course, we are consistently testing these batches of seawater to ensure that they are maintained in their purity, in their quality, and in their safety as well. But knowing this kind of in the back of our minds is always a fantastic thing to know that with no human intervention, there's really no seasonal fluctuation to this aqueous resource. Similarly to that giant Byongpool, there are ample studies on the Jeju lava energy water. And in our partnership with the Jeju Lava Water Research Center, we get a lot of access to understanding this research. What I have listed here are from other parties, but I always invite you to read them if you're really into the science behind these ingredients. But what's key in the performance of the Jeju lava energy water is its ability to hydrate the skin. That, of course, is in presence of the minerals in formula, but we've also seen that it's able to reduce hyperpigmentation via the melanogenesis pathway, specifically in inhibiting the signaling that creates hyperpigmentation. Lastly, upon consumption on a mouse study, it was found that it even reduced the it improved the lipid metabolism of mice. So we are not yet applying the Jeju lava energy water in formulation for consumption, but that is always something to note. There's so much different research because there are so many different applications. But the Jeju lava energy water is a fantastic ingredient for us to utilize as water is such a universal solvent. And as you may know, we use it to grow that giant Byongpool, but we also use it to water extract our giant Byongpool. And that creates our Byongpool leaf extract, which goes into our formulations. To create the Byongpool leaf water, we of course wanted to make sure that we had a very concise process that left no room for error in the creation of these extracts. When we pick those leaves, which already is at the peak growth, so it's roughly, I believe, 84 days, we take those leaves and do two succinct rounds of cleansing of those leaves. We then sterilize them to remove any microbial contamination. We then extract. And so that's where we put all the leaves in the big vat with the Jeju lava energy water. We heat it, we circulate it, and we create all those phytonutrients in a liquid solution. We then filter out to remove any of that plant matter and transfer it for another antibacterial process. From there, we then package and we inspect while maintaining quality control. Now, in the quality control, we check the pH, we check the conductivity, refractometry, which checks essentially the purity of non-bacterial contaminants, and ultimately we ensure that the sterilization process was a success. So in all of this, 15 tons of Byongpool produces enough extract for 1 million Rheemon products. So that is really where we're looking at in terms of the giant Byongpool and the Jeju lava energy water, is that perfect synergy, creating that Byongpool leaf extract with so many different benefits to the skin, so many different applications in our products. The booster, the serum, the dermatology cream are not the limit with what the Centella asiatica extract is in. It's in a variety of those products. It's in all the Radiant Sun products, the two-phase oil mist, the list truly goes on. But I hope with this you understand how important and honored we find ourselves in having this patent and in utilizing this ingredient to its highest capabilities, or rather to our highest capabilities. But on that note, that is all we have for today's discussion. And as per usual, we have an outline for you here. And we're also dropping a link in the chat for you to download it there as well. Now, a couple of people mentioned last week that there's a little thing at the top of the page that says that WeTransfer portals are going away October 22nd. Thank you for pointing that out. We do already know about that, so do not worry, your drive will still be accessible to you. It will be simply on a different platform. But for now, go ahead and download this outline or save it and write notes that you might have had. And the other thing is, you might notice that when you initially look at it, their pictures are not loading in, but once you download, all the pictures will be there as well. But thank you so much for joining me on this discussion of the giant Byongpool, the Jeju lava energy water. It is so important and understanding part of the difference of Rheemon. But next week, we're starting to get into the products. And what better way to set up our understanding of the ICD skincare than to talk about skin physiology in Rheemon. Next week, we're going to go through the layers of skin, the different components in each layer, and how ultimately each routine or specific ingredient is treating the health of your skin. And of course, I just want to mention to you all that Q&A session is not quite coming up too soon. It's going to be, towards the end of November, or excuse me, mid-November. But session 7 is our Q&A session. I'm so excited that I'm already getting Q&A questions. So just a reminder, label your email as Product University Q&A or something along those lines, just so I can make sure not to answer your question immediately and to save it to answer during this session. But all right, that is all we have for today, y'all. I'm so happy that you joined me. I do hope that this really helped you in your understanding of the Byongpool. Again, if any questions came up with this discussion, email me at ritual@Rheemon. But without further ado, I hope you have a fantastic night or morning wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next Wednesday for session 3. Talk to you then.